and Wibo present the local artist show. Today's guest is a vocalist whose bands include what? Rock and roll band, The Music of Boston, Summer of '69, Double Vision, Foreigner, and the Kyle Frost Band. So without further ado, please welcome Kyle Frost to Rich and Wibo present the local artist show. How are you, Kyle?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good to see y'all. Thanks for having me. The Foreigner tribute that you mentioned, actually, we changed the name a few years ago to 4NR. The number four and yeah.
Well, so, I pronounced it Foreigner, but yeah, I had it written down as 4NR.
Yeah, Double Vision was what the old band's name was, and then we made some changes personnel wise. We changed it to 4NR, and that's what we've been doing for the last I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years now.
It's funny. Most recently, I've interviewed several musicians, and they're making their money playing tribute bands. And I was talking to them about that, and I want your opinion on this. Back in the '90s, it seemed like it was a big thing. I'm not sure if I know you're originally from the Torrington area, so you're Connecticut, but I'm not sure. Where'd you live in the like 91, 92? Did you?
I moved to Los Angeles or the Los Angeles area, actually Burbank in 90. I was 91 or 92. So I was out here and I kind of saw the birth of the tribute scene, and really it started to really explode. I would say over about the last 10 to 15 years is when it's really become, a way to make a living as a musician. A lot of these, older bands don't play anymore. I mean, Boston doesn't play anymore. Actually, it's Tom Schultz's birthday today. He's 75. Happy birthday, Tom. And so people don't actually get to go see the original bands anymore, because either they're not playing because they've gotten up in the age, or because they don't have certain members have left. Some bands like Foreigner, the only original member left is Mick Jones, and Mick doesn't play with them every time. So it's become a situation where if you want to listen to that music or that classic rock or whatever it is, for a lot of these bands, the tribute bands is the only thing in town that, where you can go hear that music live.
That's what I was going to mention, because around that time I was in radio, and there was a club called The Sting in New Britain, and they always had Wednesday was tribute band night. And it seemed like that was such a big thing. Then it died down for a little while, but it seems like it's coming back. And I love what you said, and I want to talk about that, is because what you just said about Mick Jones being the only original member of Foreigner, he doesn't play every night. You're basically paying $150 to see a tribute band, because it's not Foreigner anymore. So with tribute bands, this is why I like them so much, because you are seeing people that love them so much, they're going to put everything into it. And you're seeing basically the band in their prime. An example would be, I'm not sure if you heard of these guys. They're called Completely Unchained, Van Halen. But they look the part, they dress the part, they act the part. They had the whole in-between song banter.
Yeah.
And I love the fact they go all out. And if you walked in there, you'd be like, wow, this is Van Halen circa 1978.
Yeah.
And
well, that's what we try to do, with all of the tributes that I'm in. The 4NR, the Foreigner tribute, was really my first tribute band, and I spent probably hundreds of hours watching old Foreigner concert footage and video, and learning Lou's movements, the way he pronounces things, not just like singing, but his, like you said, the banter in between songs. We call the band 4NR the Foreigner concert experience. What we're trying to do is, like you said, take everybody on a trip back to 1985, that era where those bands were in their heyday, in their prime, and try and reproduce what you would have seen live at a Boston show, at a Foreigner show. Still, Bryan Adams is amazing, but we try to do more toward what they were doing back in their heyday, so to speak. But yeah, it's a labor of love for sure, because if you're going to do it right, you need to have the look, somewhat. I mean, as far as Foreigner goes, Lou's about 8 inches shorter than me. So other than that, but I wear the cutoff, I wear the cutoff t-shirt, even though I got these skinny little stick arms that, I don't have the guns, but, I put the headband on and the whole, want to look the part and sound the part and act the part. When I started doing tributes, I looked at it as, because I used to do theater. I used to do a lot of musical theater. And that's what I kind of look at it as. It's a form of musical theater, because the show with the banter and the songs and everything, it's almost like a script, you're going out there and you're doing your thing. And the way that we kind of put our own little personal touches on things is like, we'll write musical transitions from one song to another, or, there's a fine line between putting too much of yourself into it, and also trying not to be, still having the integrity of what the original band, sounded like or performed like. Just talking about the Boston tribute, the guitar tones are so unique, as Tom Schultz, created the Rockman, those significant and signature guitar tones of Boston. So, as the two guitar players, and of course myself playing guitar as Brad Elmwood, we the boys scoured the internet for any of those Rockman units that they could find that were in good working order, so that we got down right to the nitty gritty to reproduce the guitar tones as exact as possible. And, and we take pride in that. There's been, you talk about Foreigner, the real Foreigner almost being like a tribute band. I mean, we've had people come up to us and say, hey, we saw Foreigner a month ago, the real Foreigner, and you guys are more like the real Foreigner, or you sound just as good or whatever. And that really makes us feel good. And it, it's worth it at that point. And the other thing is, these casinos and, some of these showrooms, they pay good money for a good act, and they're not going to pay, whatever it is to bring in Foreigner or, whoever can't do Van Halen anymore and so forth, or Boston, but they'll pay you good money because people pay good money to come out and see those bands that they grew up with, those bands that bring them back and are nostalgic, and you can't go see them anymore. So we give them the next best thing.
I love it. Now, is Foreigner your favorite band?
No. They are one of my favorites. I'm a huge Foreigner fan, but I always say this when I'm asked this question. There's 3 reasons why I started playing music: Paul McCartney, Billy Joel, and my sister. And I just saw Billy Joel in Vegas at Raider Stadium, Allegiant Stadium, 2 weeks ago. And at 70, I think he's 72 years old, he did 2.5 hours straight, did a 5-song encore. It was phenomenal. And I say my sister because my sister introduced me to Billy Joel. And she actually started taking piano lessons. She's 4 years older than me. She started taking piano lessons, and I would go sit at her piano recitals as a real little guy. And I'd see all these kids and my sister, and they're all getting, applause for, and I'm like, well, damn, I want to do that, So I went up to her piano teacher after one of these recitals. I said, I want to do this. I want to learn how to play piano. And she goes, well, how old are you? I said, 6. She goes, you got to come back and see me in 2 years. She waited until I was 8 because my hands were too small. But my sister was a big influence on me. Like anybody who has an older sibling, as they buy albums, for those of you who are young and you don't know what an album is, Google it. It's this vinyl thing that used to put on this. Anyway,
I missed the 8 tracks.
Oh my God, right? Because vinyl is making a little bit of a comeback, so that's good.
Yeah,
but it's but Foreigner was a great influence. Lou's an amazing singer and always was a big influence. I was always a big Foreigner fan, but I never thought I'd be doing that. I really never thought I'd be doing that. I'm so glad now. And
you had a chance to meet him, right?
Yes, I've actually met him a couple of times. First time, I was actually in a doing a little residency in Vegas, this tribute show called Rock Fantasy, where each night they would have 3 tribute singers, and then we'd each do a half an hour, and it would be a 90-minute show, and then we would do an encore at the end. And one night, Lou was playing with his band across town at a different casino, and I told my producer, I usually want on second or last, and I asked him if I could go on first because I was going to go over to the show in my full cutoff tee, headband, Lou, my girl and my mom were already at the show. I knew I was going to be a little late. We were 3rd row center, and here I am walking in during the 4th song. This usher's bringing me in. I'm dressed like Lou Gramm from head to toe, and I'm the only one in the audience standing up and walking, and our eyes caught. And I swear to God, he looked afraid. He's like, who is this nut job walking in late to my show, dressed like this, just like me. And he was doing a meet and greet afterward. And I was standing in line, and I just let everybody go in front of me because I wanted to make sure that when I met him, I wasn't worried about, spending too much time. And my girl tells a story, my fiance tells a story much better, but I was like a little kid. I was starstruck. He shook my hand, and I held on to it for the whole time, shaking his hand, just telling and he wasn't doing photographs. He wasn't doing any pictures, but his manager, she was very nice. She took my mom, my girl, and I back into the venue after the meet and greet was over, so that we could have some pictures and I could talk to him some more. And he's a big car guy, and I had just bought my dream car like 3 weeks earlier. So after we had done all the pictures and stuff, I didn't want the night to end. I was so enamored and starstruck that I said, oh, I'll tell him about my car. So I was like, I just bought my dream car. And he's like, well, what'd you get? And all of a sudden it was like, 2 buddies talking, and we talked for another half hour. And then later on, I met him at another show, and he remembered me, and he really remembered my mom, because the funny story about it is, my mom at the time this was about 5 years ago. She had just turned 75, and this little Italian Catholic lady sitting in the corner, and I'm like, come on, Ma, get in the picture, And she's like, no. And he's like, come on, Mom. And I said, yeah, you paid for all the lessons. You might as well come into the picture. So my mom reluctantly walks over, puts her hand on Lou Gramm's shoulder, and says, it's amazing how much you sing like my son. I was mortified.
All right.
Right. But he laughed. He goes, he talks like me too. He's from Rochester, so we got that same kind of New England, New York kind of accent going on, and we kind of became friendly. And we've had a couple Zoom calls and so forth. And he likes the band. He thinks it's great. And then I did get to meet Mick Jones as well in Vegas. My friend runs a studio there. He runs Desert Moon Studio, which, if you've ever seen the show Counting Cars, which is Danny Count Coker, he does he has a car restoration show, and he owns that studio. And my friend Stoney Curtis plays in his band called Count 77, and that's the recording studio. Well, Mick and Foreigner was doing a residency in Vegas a couple years ago before COVID. And so he was in the studio doing some recording of some guitar stuff to put into this modeling amplifier. And so my buddy's like, hey, come in on Tuesday. He goes, you'll be happy. I said, what do you need? He goes, just show up. And sure enough, I walk in, and there's Mick Jones, and he turned around and introduced himself. And my friend had told him that, I was in a Foreigner tribute, and I told him that I had met Lou. And the coolest thing about that was he liked the name. He goes, when I was coming up with the band and the name, I toyed with using, how we do it with the 2 letters, the number 4 and the 2 letters. So that was kind of cool. And our Mick Jones, the amazing Patrick McGrath, who's also in the Boston tribute as Tom Scholz, incredible guitar player, incredible singer, just amazing guy. Actually did a Rush tribute for a number of years, did the Geddy Lee playing the bass, the Taurus pedals, the keyboards, the singing, incredible musician. He's the one who came up with 4NR after we kind of decided that Double Vision was going to go by the wayside.
Well, I'm really glad your mother didn't say to Lou, You know what? You're a little pitchy. You can learn a lot from my son. It could have went that way.
No. It went very well, and he was very gracious, and he laughed. So the second time I met him, we were talking, and he said, how's your mom? And I said, good. He goes, she's kind of a smart ass. I said, I know, right? So it was very cool. He's a very nice man. Very nice man.
Sounds like I never met him. I saw Lou Graham live, and then I also saw Foreigner live. So I saw them without Lou, and I saw Lou without Foreigner, and both shows were fantastic. It was like
Kelly Hansen's a singer now, and he does a phenomenal job as well. He's a great singer. He's a great singer.
In Hurricane. He was
right.
from Hurricane.
That's right. I know some of the guys in Hurricane. Tony Cavazzo, I'm very good friends with. So yeah.
I just interviewed, I'm not sure if you heard this name before, Jimmy Bell. He was a good, well, he was in Joint Forces. It was between him and Zach Wilde with Ozzy. He played with Geezer Butler. Now,
yes.
But the reason I brought him up was because he is also doing Beyond Purple, which is a Deep Purple, White Snake, and Rainbow tribute band. And he said exactly the same thing too. He goes, I'm making money from this. People want to hear the greatest hits. The bands really aren't around anymore. If they are, they're older, and it's not the same. So he goes, I'm just, having fun. I'm making money doing this. And I love the fact, and I said this before, I am very much pro tribute bands for the same reasons we just both talked about. But I do want to say, because before we got into Lou Graham and Mick Jones, you mentioned your third influence was Paul McCartney. And I'm very happy to say that I bought my ticket for Fenway Park June 9th. I cannot wait to see him live.
All right, Rich.
I love it. Well, first of all, Fenway Park is a mecca for me. I used to live in Boston. I lived about a 5-minute walk out my back door to Fenway Park, and I was there almost every night. And I don't think there would be much better than seeing Paul McCartney at Fenway Park. We had talked about maybe taking the trip back, but we're luckily, and I'm not complaining, but the bands are getting booked and the summertime schedule is very full. So I can't even get away, So
good. That's a good thing.
Good.
Yes, absolutely. I'm not complaining. I saw Paul McCartney one time here in California, and I pretty much was bawling my eyes out like a 15-year-old girl back in 1969 the entire time. It was an incredible experience. Now I have seen Billy Joel 26 times. So yeah, this 2 Saturdays ago was my 26th time seeing Billy Joel. Big fan.
Whenever I talk to a musician or even other people, when they say, who's your favorite musician? I said, there's a difference. I have a favorite musician, which I'm trying to think, that changes every so often, but my favorite entertainer, there's a difference. Entertainer slash me. Now, Paul McCartney is a good bass player, great songwriter, but he's maybe not technically the best, but he is the ultimate entertainer. And I've seen him I never saw him live. I cannot wait to see him in person. But I've seen DVDs of him in Russia. I'm trying to think of other places that I have of his shows. I saw one recently on YouTube when he was with Wings. He sings these songs like he's singing it for the first time. He's having fun. He's dancing around, gets the audience into it. It's not like he's just sitting there, okay, the next one is, he's loving it like it's the first time he ever played it. And that's why, to me, he is my all-time favorite entertainer.
Absolutely. Never phones it in,
Exactly.
And hey, if I wrote any of those songs, just one of them, I would be, excited to play it for whoever wanted to listen anytime. So, like I said, when I saw him and I didn't know what he was going to play, and he played a lot of stuff from Wings, which I love. There's never a bad set. No matter what song he puts in there's never a bad set. And then of course, near the end, he goes into, Hey Jude, Hey Jude and Let It Be. And I'm just like, oh, I lose it, So yeah, he's a phenomenal performer for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you know what I love about him too? I just want to stick on this subject for a bit because I'm such a huge fan myself, was that there was 2 documentaries that came out recently. One with Peter Jackson, which was the Let It Be recordings.
Yes.
That was great. But then the other one, which I liked even better, was it was a one-on-one interview with Rick Rubin. Rick
Rubin's interviews, the three part. Excuse me for 1 second. Hey, get out of there. I'll show you why. He's being a pest. He's being a pest. This is Gumbo. This is my youngest son.
Hey, Gumbo.
I have two schnauzers. This is the pest.
Oh, my parents had two schnauzers, and I know exactly what you're talking about. They have that pesky personality.
Yeah, they want to be in. They want to be involved. They want to be involved in everything.
Exactly. But so you saw what you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And Rick Rubin, who's one of the greatest record producers of all time. He's done everything from Public Enemy, Beastie Boys, Slayer, Johnny Cash, Neil Diamond, Black Sabbath recently, a couple years ago. So I just love the fact everything he does turns to gold. And it was just a one-on-one conversation. And some of the things that he was talking about were great. And the point I'm going with this was when he said that original Beatles songs, they were so easy and so simple because back then they didn't have recording equipment to remember them. He goes, I had to make it easy so I wouldn't forget them.
Right.
I said, I never even thought of that.
Yeah. I mean, originally they were doing everything with 4 tracks, you know.
Yeah.
The drums had one mic and they were panned over to one. If you listen to those Beatles recordings, the early ones in your head, all the drums are on one side, vocals are in the middle, and the guitar and the bass are, you know, panned on the other side. It's very, very interesting way. But of course, they had one of the most incredible genius producers of all time,
George Martin.
You know, and I was lucky. When I graduated from Berklee College of Music in Boston, the year I graduated, the 2 honorary doctorates that we gave out were Dizzy Gillespie and George Martin.
Wow.
So George Martin, actually, I have a photo of this. George Martin handed me my diploma from Berklee College of Music when I graduated.
Oh,
all right.
That would be great.
Yeah.
You know what? It's funny because, I mean, I know what a great producer he was, but watching behind the scenes, I did not realize how much he did for the Beatles. He really was, besides Billy Preston as the 4th Beatle or the 5th Beatle.
5th Beatle, yeah.
He really was the 5th Beatle because
Yeah.
he said, Paul, you played piano on this. Why don't you try this? Oh, no, John, you did this before. Why don't we try this?
Yeah.
And it's just the fact that, like, I mean, I know he does get the credit that he truly deserves, but he made that band who they are.
Oh,
I mean,
no doubt about it. Without George Martin, the Beatles would not have been, you know, the Beatles.
No.
You know, you even though their genius was incredible, you
Exactly.
still needed another genius to come in and kind of keep it together and mold it into the correct directions, you know, and deal with them, you know, individually and their personalities and getting the best out of, I mean, you know, I look at a music producer, an album producer is kind of plays the same role as a movie film director.
Exactly.
You got to get the best out of your performers. And how am I going to do that? They got to be part cheerleader. They got to be part musician. They got to be part shrink, you know? So, yeah. But he was an amazing man. I was blessed and honored to meet him. And, you know, that's a pretty cool story. I get a cup of coffee on that every once in a while.
You know what? I owe you one. I owe you a cup of coffee.
Oh, you too.
Now, did you have a chance to talk with Dizzy Gillespie? That's another great guy.
I did. I didn't talk to Diz much. I shook his hand, you know, as I left. But you know, again, icon in his genre, in his, you know, and just another phenomenal musician.
Pretty good graduation.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I've been blessed and very lucky to be able to have met or played with, you know, the individuals that I played with throughout my career. You know, people, you know, I get that, hey, you know, you're like a rock star, whatever. I said, no, I'm a working musician, but I know a lot of rock stars. And I hang around with rock stars. I'm not. I'm a working stiff. There's a difference. But I'm happy. Hey, look, I'm lucky. I'm blessed. I have a great support system. My fiance Chanel, my mom, you know, always supporting me, allowing me to do my music, and now, you know, these, you know, great tribute bands that I'm in, where, you know, we can make a living doing it. So that's a nice thing. I'm very lucky and blessed.
Good.
Well, you mentioned you moved to LA. Are you still in LA now?
I am. I split my time between like 50-50 between LA and Las Vegas. I have a place in Las Vegas. I brought my mom out there about 10 years ago, get her out of the cold. didn't realize how cold it gets in Vegas during the winter, but at least there's no snow often. Actually, a couple of years ago, they did have some snow that landed and stayed on the ground for about 2 days, which shocked the hell out of me. It was like, but yeah, people talk about the heat in Vegas. It's the cold that's worse because I can't stand the cold.
Oh.
Did you ever have
But
a residency in Vegas?
No, not anymore. That show kind of went by the wayside, but I played there a lot. There's a couple of different, I work with a couple of people, and we do a variety show every couple of months. And then of course my tributes play out there very often. And there's some other bands like my friend Stoney Curtis. I sit in with, he's got an amazing blues rock band. He's got, I think 5 or 6 albums out on the Shrapnel, Mike Varney's Shrapnel label. If you don't know, you should go look them up. Stoney Curtis band, incredible. So I'll sit in and play some Hammond organ with them and sing a few songs and stuff. Curtis and I go way back to his time here in LA, and I used to be the singer in his band years and years ago, around 96 to 99. And then I went off after that and did my own original band for a while. And we put out 3 CDs. And right now, Curtis and I in Vegas are working on my 4th. So I've got 3 songs in the can, and we're getting ready to go and hopefully record 3 more. And I want to do a CD with 12 songs. And like I said, we got three already done that I'm pretty happy with, and he's helping me with that and producing and playing guitar. And I got Barry Barnes playing bass on that, and the incomparable Jeff Totoro, who plays with everybody, playing the drums.
What is the name of your band?
The Kyle Frost Band.
All right. Right to the point.
Exactly.
I like it.
When we had it way back in the late 90s, and we were trying to come up with a band name, I didn't want to call it that. And we couldn't come up with a band name that everybody could agree upon. So the rest of the band member, and at that time the band was pretty big. It was guitar, drums, bass, percussion, 3 female backup singers, and myself. So it was a pretty big family. And they all came to me one day and said, "Look, why don't you just call it the Kyle Frost Band?" And I said, "Well, no, I don't want to do that." But they were insistent. And I said, "Well, why don't we do like Tom Petty or Bruce Springsteen and say, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers?" Well, we still had to come up with the and we couldn't do it. So it just ended up being the Kyle Frost Band.
Kyle Frost and the band with no name. How's that?
Band, and the band with no name.
I like it. So you are the vocalist, and you've sang in many different bands. Do you play any other instruments?
Yeah. I got some guitars here. I play guitar, and like Brad Delp in Boston, I play guitar and his parts in the Boston tribute. I've played piano since I was 8 years old. So I do play piano, keyboards, and like I said, I sit in with Stoney Curtis and play some Hammond. I do play a little bit of blues harmonica, which I enjoy. And but voice is the instrument that I studied when I went to Berkeley. I had the most incredible vocal teacher and vocal coach, Mili Bermejo. She passed about 6 years ago. She was phenomenal Latin jazz singer from Mexico City. And I always sang. I came out of the womb singing, making noise, but she taught me how to sing and got me into singing opera. I sang Italian arias, got me into singing jazz. So now when it comes to doing these rock guys who have these high ranges and stuff, I know how to sing correctly so that I can hit those notes, supporting and not singing from the throat, not hurting myself, not losing my voice after 15 minutes of singing that stuff, and without her expertise, without her teachings, without her input into, I worked with her for 6 years, and I really learned how to be a singer and sing correctly. And that's, you know, really suited me well throughout my life.
I speak with a lot of singers, and most say that the most important thing in singing or with singing is breathing.
Yep.
Through the diaphragm.
Yep. Push that belly out.
Yep.
You know, it's almost counterintuitive for people to think, because usually when they breathe in, they fill up their lungs, but it's filling up your lungs, but you've got to push that belly out and have that support, you know, and then knowing how much air and how much breath to release for the notes. And, you know, I do this thing in, again, getting back to the tribute thing and making things a little personal. We do an ending in Feels Like the First Time. And at the end, there's a spot where I hold this note, and I just kind of, I say to my guys, I'm like, I want to see if I can hold it until I pass out tonight. You know, I want to see how long I can hold it, you know, see if I can get to that point. But so, you know, and again, I wouldn't be able to do that kind of thing without the lessons and the 6.5, 7 years that I worked with Mealy. She's a phenomenal lady. I miss her. And, you know, I can't say enough about her. She was just instrumental in making me who I am as a singer today, you know.
Growing up, who were your main influences?
Oh my goodness. I listened to everything. I was really into a lot of the 60s and 70s singer-songwriter stuff, but I was also into prog rock. I loved Yes, Rush, Triumph. You know,
them too.
Oh my God, you know, if I was a better guitar player, I would do a Triumph tribute, but I can sing like Rick Emmett, but I can't play guitar like Rick Emmett. So, but I mean, the Eagles were a big influence on me. Believe it or not, the Bee Gees.
I love the Bee Gees.
Huge Bee Gees fan. Even before the disco stuff. Even
me too. I love, like,
know,
even a Broken Heart. I mean, all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Massachusetts. I started a joke. Massachusetts.
Yes.
I gotta tell you something that's funny, because I'm 53 years old, and I can't
You're
remember
young.
Yes, I am young.
Oh my God, you're young.
I'm still a youngin'. But when I was in school, right when Ozzy got kicked out of Black Sabbath, everybody's like, Ozzy's God, Ozzy's God. And I said, I love the Bee Gees. And I was serious. I love the Bee Gees. And anybody that could ever say anything wrong about the Bee Gees, other than
doesn't know music.
No, I was gonna say, other than Lennon and McCartney, he wrote the most number one singles for himself and any bands. And I said, well, obviously there's more than me that like him. And I think that there's a documentary that came out on them recently. I don't know if you saw that.
How do you mend a broken heart? It's
love it.
Beautiful documentary. So good. So good.
What is so impressive about that documentary? Well, the fact that at the very end he's singing and he sounds just as great as he did back in the 70s.
Right.
But the fact that he was saying that they didn't have any lyrics until right before they recorded the song. Like, all right, let's go in the studio. Okay, let's come up with some lyrics.
Yeah.
I saw them doing this. I said, that is amazing.
Yeah. Well, that was what was great about the Let It Be documentary as well. You know, seeing Paul in there, you know, and watching these songs that you've known, you know, for me since I was, you know, really small, and being a songwriter myself and knowing what my process is and how I go through lyric writing and stuff, it was cool to see, you know, in my opinion, maybe the greatest pop rock songwriter of all time, Paul McCartney, coming up with, you know, lyrics and how they produced their songs and how they wrote their songs. It's so eye-opening. And as a musician, you know, just, I'll tell you a funny story about that documentary. I think it's like 9 hours. It's like, you know, it's like 3+ hour sessions.
Yeah.
I was in Vegas with my mom on one Saturday, and I said, "Hey, Ma, you want to try and see this first, you know, couple hours of the Beatles sing?" She's like, "Sure." And this was about 3 PM. We watched the first one. I said, "You want to keep going?" She's like, "Oh yeah." And now, you know, there's a lot in the 9 hours that is kind of boring and fluff unless you're a musician. But my mom and I sat there for 9 straight hours on that Saturday and watched the whole thing straight through
Wow.
We took a pee break and a dinner break, but that was it, you know, and it just, it was so enthralling for me to watch them go through that process and incredible.
What I found impressive or surprising, I should say, that's a better word for this, was watching how vocal George Harrison was with Paul McCartney when he's like, no, I don't want to play it like this. No, play it like this. No, let's.
Yeah.
I was surprised. Well, John Lennon, Ringo, I didn't watch the whole thing, so I didn't make it through the 9 hours yet. I'm going to, but Ringo just seemed like he was like, okay, guys, are we gonna start playing soon?
Yeah.
Yoko was just sleeping there. John was disinterested for the parts I thought, but Paul was.
Well, it's interesting because you're actually watching the Beatles break up as that all happens, you know, and Yoko, you know, unfortunately she got the, you know, she got the yoke of being the one that broke up the Beatles, and it really wasn't true. Yeah, you know, if you watch the full documentary, you'll see that wasn't true. But you know, like you know, all good things must come to an end, and I don't know if they continued on, if you know, what Paul did with Wings and what John did on his own, what George did on his own, even Ringo, you know, I don't know if those things would have happened. And, you know, I don't know if the Beatles, you know, it seemed like in watching that documentary that they really had gone as far as they were going to go. And they had been together for so long. I mean, think about the times in Germany. You know, it was day after day after day. You're with the same people over and over and over. And I don't care how much you love them. You know, at some point, you know, a band is, you know, I always say this, you know, you got 4 or 5 marriages going on in a band, you know, because it really is like that. Yeah, you know, those relationships are very intimate, especially in an original band. And if you're writing with people, that's a very, very intimate thing to do with somebody.
Well, that's why I think the band that impresses me the most, and I've seen 3 documentaries on them, Rush. Oh. Watching them, they knew each other since high school, and they're still the best of friends. They're still joking around. Yeah. And I always make this comment to people because when I saw Some Kind of Monster by Metallica, I said, they're a bunch of crybabies. I mean, I'm sure it was years ago, so maybe they matured by now. But I said, Metallica needs to be strapped down and watch that and see what a real band is like. Right, these guys have class. They have talent. There's no ego involved. I love the part when somebody came up for an autograph. And they're like, oh, Alex is in the band too, because it was Geddy Lee. Yeah. You want his autograph? No, just you. And they're laughing. It's just there's no ego involved. No. And Neil is such a great guy and such a genius. I didn't realize until I started watching all these documentaries that he wrote all the lyrics and I know what a great drummer he was. Yeah. And it's such a shame.
Phenomenal. I mean, it's such all 3 of them, extremely intelligent men. You know, extremely intelligent. And like you said, you know, they just, hey, there's 3 buddies. They were all incredibly talented, and they went out and did their thing. And, you know, nobody else did what they did. Nobody. You know, they had their unique niche. They made it work. They wrote great songs. They performed phenomenal, another phenomenal group to watch live, you know. And, you know, sad that we lost Neil. I mean, you know, it seems like over the last 3 or 4 years, we've just lost so many greats, you know, going back to Prince and Tom Petty, you know, Eddie recently, you know, just over and over. You can, you know, Bowie, all these greats, you know, again, why the tribute scene has become so, you know, popular.
Definitely. There's another documentary I want to talk about because it relates to all this type of music we're talking about is Echo in the Canyon. I don't know if you had a chance to see that.
Yes. Yeah.
It's all about the Laurel Canyon area. Yes. And I was so lucky because I saw the documentary in the theater right before I went to California. It was maybe 2-3 weeks before. So the first thing I did was there's got to be a Laurel Canyon tour. And it was funny because the movie was so fresh in my head, the documentary. When I was doing the tour, it was called The Hippie Hideaway. So this guy was great. He was just this hippie that looked, oh, check out the landscape. Look at this. So I'm saying, well, what about, isn't that George Martin's house? Isn't that John? Really? And I'm telling him the story about Janis Joplin and all these different stories about how the mamas and the papas and Brian Wilson had the sand in his living room while he's writing pet songs.
Yes. Yeah.
All he said was, wow, I really could use some of these stories in my my tour. And I'm
Yeah.
laughing because he was all just like, hey, how's it going, man? He was so
Yeah.
cool. But
Yeah.
he didn't, the music was like sort of the background for that tour. I was, no, what about this? What about that? And then every time he would point out a house, I said, oh yeah, this is where Eric Clapton used to walk over there. Oh, I got this riff. You got to hear this. And Michelle Phillips was partying over here. I love that documentary because that to me, it's just like you. I can go from Pavarotti to the Bee Gees to Madonna to ABBA to the Carpenters to Slayer all in one day.
Absolutely.
I like all types of music, but there's something about the 60s and that time period
Yeah.
is my favorite.
60s and 70s music is magical. You know, it really, you know, kind of the, you know, late 60s, early 70s, mid 70s. That was kind of the beginning of the second wave of rock and roll, as it were. You know, and heavier stuff when, you know, Sabbath and Zeppelin and all that came about. And like you, my record collection back in the day, you would hear in one day me go from the Bee Gees to Billy Joel to the Eagles to Zeppelin to the Cars, you know, to Rush, Yes, you know, just, you know, all over the map. And then you know, what I really was brought up on early, you know, when I was a little kid before I went to school, I'm home with my mom, and, you know, what am I listening to? The Righteous Brothers, Elvis Presley, Engelbert Humperdinck, Bobby Vinton, all these crooners. And I remember her and my dad taking me to see all these people, you know? And so here I am, 3 years old, you know, playing horsey on the rocking chair, listening, you know, and singing Unchained Melody at 4 years old to the Righteous Brothers, you know? It was just, that was, you know, I've had the opportunity to explore and do a lot of things in my life, whether it be sports related or, you know, theater, as a school teacher. But it all comes down to, I believe in my heart, and this is why I still do it. And this is why, you know, I am where I am doing this. I was born to be a musician. It's in me. I could have done other things, probably been more successful, made more money, if that's how you're gonna, you know, maybe measure success. I was a sports writer in college, and you know, had the opportunity to have some work if I stayed in North Carolina, but I had to, you know, I had to pursue music. I had to. It was just this driving thing inside me that's like, I gotta sing for people. I gotta play for people. It's I don't know if it's a drug or whatever, but it's just I can't not do it. You know, I know that's a double negative, and my sister will probably smack me, but
Well, I agree with you. And I have cerebral palsy, and I started doing stand-up comedy, and that evolved into motivational speaking. And what I talk about was, I said, I'd rather fail at something that I love doing and go give it my best, give it 1,000%, and then succeed in something that I have no passion in,
right.
I could really care less about. So I love what you're saying, and I respect that, because you're doing what you love and you're making a living out. You can maybe make more money doing something else, as you said, but you're happier doing this.
Right.
And when they, like that old saying, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And that's what you're doing. I mean, I would love to get up there, be a showman, playing the songs that you love, paying tribute to the bands that you love. So I agree with you 1,000%.
Yeah.
Double negative or not.
Yeah. And that's funny you talk about stand-up comedy. I just, right before COVID hit, I just started doing stand-up. I had done my first show. Yeah, I had done my first showcase, and everything. I was like, oh, I'm going to start, you know, and because I've always said, of all the things you could do in the entertainment business, movies, acting, television, stage acting, singing, recording, whatever, stand-up comedy to me is by far the most difficult, because, you know, it's just you by yourself. You don't have band members helping you out if you make a mistake or whatever. You know, you're either hitting it with the audience and they're laughing, or they're not. And that's an ugly thing, because that could be really scary. Luckily, I've made them laugh most of the times that I've been on stage doing it. But I was never more nervous on stage than the first time. And I'll remember this, the first time I walked up stage to do a 5-minute stand-up set, I noticed as I grabbed the mic that my hand was shaking like a leaf, and I never do that. I get nervous going on stage doing music. I always do. If you don't get nervous, like I said, when I played sports, and I've played competitive golf all my life, you got to have a little bit of nervousness, or else it means you really don't give it.
I was just gonna say that, because if you really just get up there saying whatever, you're apathetic.
Right.
You have that little jolt of excitement / fear, and that makes your performance, because you want to do well, you want to give it your best shot, and you're worried that, like, oh boy, I mean, even though you could do the same show 300 nights straight, but you're like, nope, this could be the one night I bombed. I don't want to bomb. So I love that. And I want to bring up what you said, because I went the opposite way. I originally started in bands, and then I went to, well, actually, no, it was the same as you. So I did bands, but then I did comedy a little bit. So in the 80s, it was more of a metal band. So I'd be moshing, stage diving. So it was good because, as you said, I had 2 guitar players, a bass player, and a drummer. Whenever I messed up a lyric, I'd jump into the audience. Right. Nobody knew what was going on. When I messed up on a joke, all I hear are the birds chirping.
It's funny because we were doing a show a couple weeks ago with Foreigner, the Foreigner tribute, and where we were playing. They want us to do 2 hours, so we do some songs that were maybe B-sides or some older stuff, and we do a song called Head Knocker, where the keyboard player comes out, plays a little lead guitar with our lead guitarist, and I go back and I sing it, and I play the piano on it and sing it, which Foreigner never did it that way. I always introduce it as, hey, this is the one time where we play, we kind of take a little artistic license and do it ourselves. And we hadn't done the song in a while, and I get back there and start playing, and I'm getting ready to sing the first verse, and the only thing that's in my head is the second verse, and I know it's wrong. So I just didn't sing, and we kept playing, and everybody's looking at me, and I'm like, so I just said in the mic, I go, yep, that just happened. I don't remember the word. So if somebody can shout it out, we'll get going. And because I recognized it and I made everybody feel comfortable about it, it wasn't awkward. It was, and I learned that from doing the comedy thing. If you make everybody part of the joke, if you make, my comedy usually is self-deprecating, because
that's me too. Yeah.
I got a lot going on. So, there's a lot to laugh at if so that's kind of how I did it on stage. If I make a mistake, if everybody's part of it, then it's all fun. And that's the beauty of live. Live doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be fun and exciting. When you record, that note is bad, we go back and we re-record that part, or we no, because that's forever, So, but live is not forever. Live is the moment, and that's what makes it great, even if there's mistakes.
Well, it's funny. I'm glad you said that, because I've always had that mentality. And I remember a lot of the people used to say, the only reason I come to the show is I want to see what you're going to do next, because I would just get everybody involved. Like an example would be, like I said, it was a metal band, but it was more fun. It wasn't Cookie Monster rock. It was more like Megadeth type metal. But we had a song called Mental Hospital. I'd come out in a straitjacket, and then there was this song called Ritual of the Walking Dead. So I said, I'm not singing that. I bought the 6 foot tall inflatable Gumby. I changed it to Ritual of the Walking Gumby. I'd jump in the audience, mosh around. I was just making a fun show.
Yeah.
But there was.
I tell you, that sounds like a great act to see. I would want to go see that.
Yeah, but the reason I bring that up is what you said, because the rest of the band was like, I want to be taken seriously. I'm like, nobody really cares how good you are. They want to have fun. They're not worried that you messed up on a note. They're not worried about that you were technically the best player here. Let's just have some fun. And for the most part, we used to have some really good crowds, because people said, like, as I mentioned, I just want to see what you're going to do next. I said, I don't even know what I'm going to do next. So come on, we'll both be surprised together.
Exactly. And that's what makes it great. I mean, people, look, most people's lives have stress, even if you don't have money issues or everybody's got their own stuff to deal with. So entertainment, what we do to entertain people is to give them an escape for 90 minutes, 2 hours, to where they can be happy. And, they don't care about, your ego on stage, or, oh, shoot, I messed up or whatever. Now, that being said, we do work very hard to make sure that we don't make mistakes. But hey, life happens, And like I said earlier, a couple of knocks on the head, and I forget a few things now and again.
Well, you said it perfectly, because if you acknowledge it and let the audience know we don't take ourselves seriously, neither should you. They're laughing with it. And they're like, go ahead. But if you took yourself so seriously and went, oh, and people are like, okay, these guys are a little too intense for me. Yeah.
I when I go see a band and say I know that something happened, I say they made a mistake, they missed it. Most people don't know. So why would you scowl or look at somebody who made, another band member give you the stink eye because you made a mistake or something? It's like they don't even know. It goes by like that. But if it's something like where I'm playing, 8 bars on piano without singing, when I was somebody singing, there's no way around that. I'm like, everybody's got to be in on it. I'm an idiot. I forgot. Yeah. Hey, but we're still playing. I'll get there. Don't worry about it. Here we go.
You're still having a good time.
And it came right back there. Boom. It was there.
Exactly. So. Yeah, it's like you're still enjoying the music. You're having a good time. Come on, just get into it.
Yep.
So I love the fact that you did. So you right now is 4NR. That's one band. Bryan Adams, Boston. Where do you perform? All in the LA area?
All across. Foreigner, the tribute, the Foreigner Concert Experience has played all over the country. We've played in Trinidad and Tobago. So yeah, we've played all over. The Boston tribute isn't even a year old yet, but we're in Arizona the first weekend of April. The Bryan Adams right now we've played mostly in the LA area, but we're expanding as well. But both the Boston and the Foreigner tributes are going to play all over the country. What I'd really like to do at some point, we come before COVID hit. For 5 years straight, the Foreigner tribute came out to Canopy Lake Park in New Hampshire, and we would play 9 shows there during what they have called Rocktoberfest. They do at the end of September through Halloween, which is their last day that they're open for the season. And they bring in a bunch of tribute bands. I think they do it for 6 weeks, and we've gone 5 years in a row, and it's great. They get to go back and it's not too far from Connecticut. Some of my family and friends have come up and seen us, but I have this dream of bringing the tributes to Connecticut, playing Foxwoods and the Warner Theater.
Hey. All right.
Can we make this happen? Can we bring these bands to the Warner Theater? I've performed in the Warner Theater years and years ago when I lived there doing theater with the Summertime Players, doing a few plays there and stuff. I played there in high school with a band. My dream is to come back home to my hometown, run my groups, and do some shows there, and play the casino so that we can make it financially viable to come across country. But I really would love to do a show at the Warner. That would be a huge hoop for me. And hopefully, hopefully I'd have more than just my family there. Hopefully we'd get some folks there to see it.
But you have me and Wibo in the front row, so.
Who's that?
You have me and Wibo in the front row. So
there we go.
That's it.
Well, let's make it happen.
We are going to make it happen. I want to see you there, the Palace Theater in Waterbury, and the Oak.
Absolutely. Well,
all 3.
It's funny because Bob Vitti, who is the keyboardist in the Boston tribute, is from West Hartford, Connecticut originally.
Oh, okay.
And he lives out here, and what we were just talking about, he goes, don't forget that awesome Art Deco theater in Waterbury that I used to go see Frank Zappa play at all the time. And that's the one you were talking about, the Grant. So we'd love to come and do shows there. Absolutely. Maybe we can make that work.
We'll make it work. Speaking of Zappa, that's a great segue, because are you a fan of his music?
I never really knew a lot about Frank Zappa until I went to Berklee College of Music and just meeting so many other, young musicians. And at that point, I had already gone to school for a few years in North Carolina, where I played golf and basketball. And that's kind of why I went there. I was a music major there too, but, after I'd gotten hurt playing basketball and knew, I had no chance for the NBA and probably wasn't going to play on the PGA Tour either. I was like, what do I want to do with my life? And it's a funny story. Well, to me, it's funny is I was playing in a golf tournament for my college, and here I am in the middle of this golf tournament, and I'm thinking, geez, what am I going to, I think I was 19 years old. So what am I going to do with my life? What can I do with my life? And I thought my two choices at that time was I was going to be a golf professional. And I don't mean a tour pro. I mean, selling sweaters and giving lessons or I wanted to be a professional musician. And I was like, which one of these two things, golf or music, can I do as a hobby? Which can I do as a hobby and be satisfied with it as a hobby? And which did I have to, like I said earlier, the drive inside to do music was just all encompassing. And it just, because like I said, I could have done some things down there. I was, when I first went away to school, I was the student sports information director. I was I was the editor of the sports page in our school newspaper. I had my own column. And so, I really enjoyed that. I'm a huge sports guy, huge sports fan. And, but music always just kind of trumped everything, no matter what I was thinking, no matter where I was, it was like, gotta play music. So
glad you picked music.
I am too, The
reason I brought up Zappa, because to put it nicely, he's unique. He's got a unique, it's not for everybody. But no. I respect him as a person. I respect what he does, but a lot of his songs are okay. But
yeah.
I interviewed Max Gill the other day from Wojo's.
Yeah.
And he was saying he was on a show with Dweezil and Moon Unit, Zappa. And he said because he was originally a musician, and he said he never really had an appreciation of Frank, of what he did and the different things he tried until he was speaking with Dweezil. And we were talking about Frank for a while. And I said, you know what? You're right. Because he had Steve Vai at 19 years old, the youngest player ever to play with Frank Zappa. Look at him now. Yeah. But it's just, he had the best musicians with him. But I just like watching him live. He was more like a conductor on stage.
Yes. Absolutely. And brilliance takes many shapes. And Frank, had his brilliance. And what was great about him was, like you said, he surrounded himself, a great musician in his own right, phenomenal writer. Unique, definitely not the mainstream, definitely not for everybody, but he always had the best musicians, always had phenomenal musicians. Yeah.
That's why I love what Dweezil took not all of them, but a lot of the former musicians from Frank Zappa's bands and went on tour and did the Frank Zappa experience or whatever it was
That's
called.
right. That's right.
Just that's why I'm glad that you brought Frank Zappa up. So for vocalist wise, who were some? I know you mentioned 60s and 70s.
Well, I will tell you, Chris Cornell.
Yeah.
God bless him. Rest in peace. My girl and I saw one of the last Temple of the Dog shows here out at the Forum, and that was the only time I ever got to see him live. Yeah. One thing about being a working musician is everybody's working at the same time. So I don't get to see a lot of my friends play, and even a lot of shows I miss. But Chris Cornell's voice to me was just that. I love grunge. I love that whole era of music. Some of the 90s guys I like. He was, in my opinion, the best voice, the best singer. And with the most range, and I don't mean range as far as, he had a 4-octave range. I meant range in stylistically, because later in his career, when he did all the acoustic stuff and he did the covers and all, he has a phenomenal cover of the Prince song, Nothing Compares to You, which Sinead O'Connor did. But his version just, touches, and so he's a big influence. Of course, I can't say Billy Joel, his singing was an influence, but his approach to vocals is an influence because he was a chameleon.
Yeah.
He even says in interviews he doesn't like the sound of his own voice when he's singing, and I'm the same way. I can't stand the sound of my own voice when I'm singing. I know I sing well, I was trained, I sing well, I know I'm a good singer, but listening to my own voice. So a lot of times when I'm doing Foreigner, or I'm doing Boston, or I'm doing Bryan Adams, and I'm trying to sound like somebody else, I like that sometimes more than when I do an original song and oh shoot, I sound like me, So, but hopefully enough people like the way I sound that, they'll enjoy the music. But yeah, Chris Cornell, I think, was probably one of my favorite singers of all time.
I have to say, probably one of my favorite singers is Ronnie James Dio.
Oh God, yeah.
Just
Absolutely.
something about his voice, as you mentioned it, you said maybe not the most range with with Chris Cornell, the big, he can't go really high, but it's just he has such a powerful voice.
Yeah.
He had great stage presence, and he wrote great music.
Right, talking about an icon, I mean, there's no, and all that sound coming out of this little guy, I mean, he was like 5'2" or something, wasn't he? I mean, he was just a little Italian, and then he
that
just
was with platform shoes.
Right, and then wow, this huge, powerful, just amazing sound coming out of his body, and that's the thing, the thing about singing is that, when you play an instrument, like I go to the piano, if I want to hear a C chord, I press down, a C, an E, and a G, and boom, there it is. Now I'm playing the instrument, but the instrument is making the sound. The instrument is making the sound.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a singer, not only do you have to play the instrument, you have to be the instrument. So that's, to me, where it's kind of like a whole different kind of unique thing, because not only do you have to, like I said, if you have a beautiful Steinway or Bosendorfer piano and you play it, it's going to sound beautiful. There are people who can sing, but maybe don't have great voices. Bob Dylan, poet laureate of, but you wouldn't exactly say that Bob Dylan has a great voice, but I think he's a great singer. Because
it's funny you say that. I brought this up with somebody else, and I said if he ever went on American Idol or one of these other shows like America's Got Talent, they would say you're never gonna make it in this business. You have the worst voice. Don't even try to make another song. And the guy's a legend. So that's why I actually use him as an example. I said if you really want to do it, don't worry about other people's opinions. Do it because you love it. And and I said, look at Bob Dylan. And I use his name a lot because you're right. He does not have a great voice, but he's got great songs. He's a great writer, great musician, and he's a legend.
Yeah. When I started writing music to make me happy, that's when I got more fans. When I stopped trying to write music that sounded like X, Y, or Z, when it just was like, okay, and maybe it has this influence or that influence or whatever, but I wasn't trying to please somebody else's ear. I wasn't trying to soothe somebody else's soul or whatever. It was, what do I want to hear? What do I want to say? And that's when I started to like my music more, how I sounded when I sang my own music, when I stopped trying to please others or, people who were in my band, because I did the songwriting in the band. And, I had, throughout the years of the Kyle Frost band, I had different players, bass players, guitar players, whatever, and singers, background singers and stuff, and writing songs to make sure that everybody in the band was doing something that was making them happy. Wasn't necessarily what was best for the song and wasn't necessarily what was best for where I wanted to go with the material. So when I learned that, if I don't please myself, I'm not going to please anybody. That's when I felt like I started to become a better songwriter and enjoy my own music more. Of course, I hate everything I ever wrote. I mean, it's good for about a day. And then, then I listen back to it and say, oh, this is horrible. And then, 5 years later, I listen to it and go, hey, that was pretty good.
Well, it's funny but I think that's,
that.
No, that's what everyone in
Yeah.
every field too. I'll give you an example. I used to be in radio years ago, and on my way home, I'd listen to the sound check. So I knew every mistake I made. I knew every bump, every pothole that I hit.
Yeah.
And I'd listen to it like, oh, this is horrible. 2 weeks later, I'd listen to it. It's actually not that bad.
That was pretty
Sounded
good.
pretty good.
Yeah.
And another time was, and I want to bring this up because it's very similar to what you just said. I wrote a book. It was a self-published book on Amazon. I used to belong to a writing club. And in the writing club, somebody said, who should I write for? I said, whoa, stop right there. What do you mean, who should you write for? Write for yourself and let the audience find you. Don't try to find the audience. I said, if you're writing because you think you're writing what they want to read, you're not going to please anybody. You have to please yourself, and you have to be happy with what you write. And it's exactly what you said about music. If you're singing something to get that #1 Billboard single, and you're not even into it, it's not gonna ring true, and your heart's not gonna be into it, and it's just not gonna sound great. So I think with any field, in radio, music, and writing, it's all the same thing.
I agree. Absolutely. Absolutely. And like you said, you know, like if you're looking to please this or that or whoever, it's like throwing darts at the map to see where you're going to go for for your vacation. It's like, you know, you just do what's inside you, what makes you happy, what makes you feel, you know, and then the audience, like you said, will find it.
Because even with comedy, I've had people say, well, if you did this, maybe you'd have a bigger audience. I said, I really don't care about having a bigger audience. I'd rather have the rabid fans that I do have who love me.
Right.
And I think the worst thing that could happen, I don't care if people hate me or if they like me. People being, well, I guess he was okay. What was his name again? Being forgettable.
Or indifferent. Exactly.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So I don't care about people hating me. I mean, that comes with I have thick skin from all the things I've done, and just like you know that you're going to have your critics, you're going to have the people that love you, and you're going to have the people that are like. So, who cares about the people that don't like you? I always say, if you like me, come along for the ride. If not, get out of the way. That's
right. That's right. There's a song by a New Orleans band that I love. They're called the Honey Island Swamp Band, and they have a song that one of the lyrics is. You know, get on the train or get out of the way. And you know, I can't, you know, my girl and I, you know, she's from New Orleans, and she introduced me to all that stuff. And that's kind of how we live our lives. It's like, you know, if you're with us, hey, come along. It's going to be fun. If you're not, whatever, that's you, you know, we're going to do our thing.
As they always say, is other people's opinion is none of your business.
Exactly. Other people's opinion of you is none of your business. That's right.
Well, we talked about the cover bands. I want to talk about one of your original bands. They were called what?
Oh, God, that goes way back to my Boston days. Let's see. I hope I remember everybody. John Cheesy Goodwin on drums, David Glorioso lead guitar, Peter Orfis on keyboards. I played keys and sang, played some guitar too, and Mark Sabin on bass, and we're all Boston guys. That was during my Boston time. That was a really fun time. We were a good band. We were a good local band. We opened for some national acts at some pretty big clubs in Boston, and that was a really fun experience. I'm still in contact. Thank God for Facebook for some things, right?
Yes, exactly.
Facebook is a double-edged sword, but the one good thing is you can keep in contact with old friends and family, and that's a good tool for it. But that was a fun time in my life. Played a lot of great gigs, made some good music, and really cherished that time with those guys. That was a lot of fun.
What kind of music?
It was like 80s rock. Let's see, our influence, a little, you know, sometimes had a little heavier edge to it, but kind of like you know what the 80s rock was, Foreigner, Journey, that kind of stuff, you know, and that's what we did.
You mentioned that you opened up for some bigger acts. Who were they?
Let's see. Who do we open up for? Let's see. We opened up for some pretty good acts back there in the Boston area. Treater Wright, Ultra Blue, which was the guitar player from Till Tuesday. Meatloaf, when he was coming back originally. Another one who just passed away.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Yeah. But you know, so some of the bigger Boston bands at the time, and we played places like the Channel and, you know, some other clubs around there and in Worcester. And it just was I had already graduated from Berkeley at that time when I got involved with them. And it was a good time for original music. And then near the end, the economy hit the skids and about 30 clubs closed, you know, where we could play in about a year and a half time. And that's kind of when I decided to move to California. Because like I told my grandfather when he said, "Why are you moving to California?" I said, "Well, Gramps, if I'm going to be homeless, I might as well be homeless where it's warm."
I like that. You know, it's funny that you said that about the clubs, because I said the same thing too. I was in band in the late 80s, but back then they had so many great clubs. L'Amour's in Brooklyn, the Channel you mentioned. They had the Brick in New Haven, the Anthrax in Norwalk. They had
Is Toad's Place still around? Is Toad's Place still around? Good, good. Glad to hear that.
I'm actually going to a show. I'm going to go see Henry Rollins do a spoken word.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I've seen him plenty of times. He always puts on a great show. But yeah, Toad's Place.
Another very intelligent man.
Yeah, and I love listening to him, how he got started, because for people who don't know, he was in a punk band called Black Flag.
Black Flag.
And he quit his ice cream job, and it was basically the same thing. He goes, "I don't want to do this the rest of my life." And his boss said, "Well, you know, the job's here if you want to come back." And he goes, "It's either now or never." And he just took off, and it's called Get in the Van. And he talks about his life experiences, and now he's a writer, producer.
He's an actor. He's done a lot of movies, and he's a good actor too.
Yeah, he is. So it's just, I'm going to see him. But yeah, Toad's Place, I know people that are friends with the owner, and it got really scary for a little while because during the pandemic, times were tough, and they were thinking about closing it. But thank God we're getting out of it. So and hopefully we never go back to that. And it's the last couple of shows I went there, it was packed, which I'm happy to see.
COVID was just so destructive to the entertainment industry. Yeah. So destructive to, you know, guys like me. You know, we did, I think in 2020, we did maybe 4 or 5 shows. They were all outside parking lot shows. These clubs would basically set up a stage in the parking lot, charge per car. And people would come like a drive-in theater.
Yes.
Park in this huge parking lot. We have giant stages, and you know the PAs. But they would also because technology is so incredible nowadays, they could transmit it, and you could hear it in your car over your radio while you were sitting there watching the show. You didn't even have to get out of your car. And thank God that we were able to do those shows. But still, you know, it wasn't like, you know, doing a real show in a theater or a nice casino showroom or whatever. You know, you're outside and people are in their cars, and it's not like they're hitting the horns and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for it because it got us through and we still were able to play a little bit. But, you know, it just, all of a sudden the world, as everybody knows, the world just stopped.
Yep, it did.
And, you know, music stuff. We did some, you know, the live stream stuff. I did a few things. I did one with my friend. I've been talking about, Stoney Curtis, who Drive Safely and Come Back Soon was, I think, the name of the show. And it was all Vegas people. And he would have us come in and we would perform a set, and then he'd do an interview, kind of like we're doing. And so I did that show with them, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, COVID really, really hurt. It really, really hurt, you know. And for guys like me who are getting older, you know, I don't want to lose any time. I don't want to lose any show time.
Well, not only for people who are getting older. No, so not only for people who are getting.
Hopefully, yeah, you would hope.
What I wanted to say was not only people who are getting older, but also the fact that is your livelihood. That's how you make your money. And if you can't do that, I mean, you could write music all you want, but I mean, you're not going to make money selling CDs or albums or you know, you're making, if you're not out playing live, iTunes,
right?
Yeah. Right. So really playing out is where you get, and going on tour and playing in front of people is where you get your money from. So if you're not doing that, so I'm glad to see that life is getting back to normal again. People are,
Yeah.
the last couple shows I went to, they were so packed you couldn't even move, which I was really happy to see. For me, during the summer of 2020, there's a place in Southington. It's in Connecticut for people who don't live in this area. It's called Crystal Bees. It's a big bowling alley / game arcade, but they also have a place for concerts. So they did the same thing you did, but it wasn't in cars. They had tables out in the parking lot. They roped off a lot of the area, and they would have bands. So I saw Van Halen tribute bands, Blondie and Beyond. I'm trying to think of all the others. Almost every weekend there was another band, and luckily the weather for that summer was really good. It was, to me, I love the heat, so it was sunny most of the time. It was warm out, so almost every Saturday night, Crystal Bees, let's go see some more live music, and it worked out well for me. But I do know I had friends who were in bands that did the drive-in thing, and they said exactly the same thing. You just can't get that same experience.
Yeah.
You feed off, for me too, because I know being in bands, being a comedian, I feed off the audience. If I'm not seeing that, like streaming, I can't imagine doing comedy or being in a band streaming. Like, I guess you guys are liking it. Okay, I can't really tell.
Well, remember when Saturday Night Live did a couple of those Zoom kind of shows, and they did skits and stuff without the, with no laugh track, and I thought they did a good job, but again, so difficult. And for me, the audience is part of the band. The audience is part of the show. Oh, if we're not connecting, if they're not feeding us back, it's so hard to, on your own, just get that energy out there. No matter how much you love it, you still it's a give and take. You have to draw the audience in. You have to make them part of the show. You have to make them believe. And without that, it's so tough.
Well, you mentioned
the one thing about COVID, which you said though, was it did give me time to write, and I started writing again because I hadn't done stuff. My third CD came out in 2007, so it had been 14 years basically since I had started writing and recording again. So that was a little bit of a blessing in disguise, because it gave me the opportunity and the time to get back into that, and I'm glad I did. I had more to say. I don't know if anybody cares to hear it, but I had more to say.
Wibo and I care.
I care.
Well, I was going to ask you, what's your process? Do you write both the music and the lyrics?
I write both the music and the lyrics 99.999% of the time. I get all the music done before I write one lyric. Once in a while, I'll have a title idea, but that's how I used to do it. I still do it that way, but now what I'm doing is, if I have an idea, a lyric idea, I'll put it in my phone, or I have a notebook or many notebooks, and I'll just, even if it's one line, even if it's not a full verse or chorus or whatever, even if it's one line, I'll write it down. And now I have like a little bit of a library to kind of draw from. If I'm writing a song and maybe I'm stuck at a spot, I'll look through, hey, is there anything in my list of ideas or whatever that works with this and that I can use? And it kind of helps me get through sometimes some rough spots with writer's block. I never did that before. It was always write the music, record the music, then sit and go, okay, what the hell is this about? What do I, the other thing now, it's like, I don't care. I want to make sure that the melody is as good as it can be, and it doesn't matter whether I can play guitar at the same time or whatever. I'll have musicians in the band. If I'm just going to sing, that's fine with me. Whereas before, a lot of times it's like I'd either write at the piano or the guitar and sing along the melody with what I was playing. Now it's like, I finish the music, I'm going to play what I want to play, whether it's difficult. I'll learn how to perform it later, is what I'm saying. If I can't perform it while I'm writing it, I'll learn how to perform it later. I'm going to make the parts as good as they can be, the melody as good as it can be, so forth. And then when I got to go play it live, that's when I'll put it together.
Now, are you the sole songwriter, or do you collaborate with the other band members?
I'm pretty much doing it myself. I've always written. I've collaborated with other people on their stuff and on some stuff that we've done together. But for Kyle Frost band stuff, it's always it's my thing. Yeah, and I've been lucky to have great musicians who dig it and dig what I do and have been a part of it. And now, like I said, the guys who are doing the recording with me, Barry and Jeff and Stoney. They make it come alive. They put their stuff on it. They put their signature on it with their instruments and their abilities. Curtis is co-producing with me, so we do go, and knock around ideas of production and maybe changing arrangements and stuff. But as far as lyric and melody and chord progression and stuff, that comes from me.
Sounds like you have a great band because, first of all, what band members would say, no, name the band after yourself. We don't care. Name it after yourself. And second of all, they're not, and I'm bringing this up because I want to talk about Roger Waters and David Gilmour, because there is so much, I don't know about anymore, but so much hatred and so much tension between those two because, that's what I thought. Roger Waters was the leader of the band. He's the one that wrote all the music. And then he said, because I saw a documentary on them too, and he said, all right, I'll give you a chance to write something. And they couldn't come up with anything. And it was until afterwards that Roger Waters did, and he goes, maybe the way I went about it was a little wrong. Yeah, but
maybe.
He goes, they wanted me to be the leader, but then they didn't want me to get all the credit. And it was just, there was a lot of tension between those two. And it wasn't David Gilmour, when Roger left and David continue with Pink Floyd, he had to bring his girlfriend in to help him write some songs because he was like, I'm not a strong songwriter. It's just that I like the fact that your band doesn't have an ego where like, oh, how come he's writing all the songs? I want to be a part of it.
Well, right now too, it's not really a band. I'll call it my own project. And I have great friends who are amazing musicians who I've played, like I said, Barry and Curtis, that's the Stoney Curtis band. They play together. And I've been playing with Curtis on and off since '96. So, and Jeff is just, as far as drummers go, this guy is phenomenal. Look him up. He plays with Bang Tango. He plays with everybody. And so I'm very lucky, but they know that this is kind of like my thing. And, like when I do Stoney Curtis band, when I, used to play in Stoney Curtis band, that was his thing. And we wrote some together, but, those were his songs. I was a singer. I played, some instruments here and there. But so they, it's kind of an understanding that this is what it is, where we're going with it. And the reason I want those guys involved is because I like their expertise on their instruments, and I like what they bring to the songs. I like what they bring to the table. And, but yeah, it's not like, you play this, you play that, you play this, you play that. We do work together as far as that's concerned. It's like, I'm not writing the bass part, I have the song, the melody, the lyric, what I'm going to play. And then I say, hey, what do you think the bass should be doing here? This is kind of what I hear. Does that make sense? Whatever. Cause I'm going to go with the guy who that's his main instrument,
Exactly.
So, but yeah, I've always been blessed and lucky to work with great people, always great musicians, so.
Like to Frank Zappa, surround yourself with the best.
Hey, I always am the worst musician in the band. If I'm the worst musician in the band, I got a good band. I know I got a good band because I'm okay. I'm okay.
Okay with that. They make you look good.
Yes, exactly.
Well, earlier in the show, you mentioned playing in the band. What you opened up for some big acts. Speaking of big name acts, what's your connection with the late great Whitney Houston?
Whitney Houston. I was able and lucky enough to sing with Whitney Houston on the Bodyguard soundtrack. Remember the movie The Bodyguard?
Yeah.
And it's an interesting story. They were recording these tracks they were recording the soundtrack at Larrabee West, which is in Hollywood. And I had a friend who was assistant engineer there. And L.A. Reid and Daryl Simmons were producing. and they were doing the song Queen of the Night, which if you've seen the movie is her big, number where she's in the silver outfit in the club and I got the stuff that you want. Anyway, so they came out, the two producers, and they're like, you know what we need on this? We need like a high tenor rock guy singing in the background. And my buddy, she was like, when do you need him? And they're like, well, right now. She goes, let me make a phone call. I was across town in another studio working on my own stuff. And all of a sudden I get this call from Larry B. West. And it's not her, it's the engineer on the bodyguard stuff. And he's like, hi, my name's so-and-so. Your friend says, would you like to come sing on a Whitney Houston record? And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, but
let me think about that. Yes.
Yes, but really? I mean, that's not, yeah, we need a rock singer, right? I said, okay. So I told him, I gotta go across town and sing for Whitney Houston. And they're like, what?
Sure,
I'm like,
you do.
yeah. All right. I went there. I met, LA and Daryl Sims came out and, shook my hand. I go into the room. They hand me the lyrics. They play the track. They said, can you sing this? They sang this part to me. I'm like, sure. I go into put the headphones on, sang down, what they had told me. And they're like, now we want a harmony for that. Sing this. And they sang it to me. And I sang it. And I sang it differently. I heard it differently for whatever reason. I don't know. I just sang it differently. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. No, do it that way. And so, I was in there really for about an hour. I did like 20 tracks of backing vocals. We're listening to it. And there's this little part in the middle, if you know the song, where there's kind of a cool little guitar solo. And I go, you know what you need there? I said, you need like this really high guttural scream at the end of the guitar solo that you can mix kind of in the background. They're like, yeah. Can you do that? I'm like, sure. I went in and did that. It's a great experience. I met, when I was done, Whitney was there with Bobby Brown and their whole entourage, and I got to meet her, and she's very nice to me. And and I got a platinum album for her. So
What
that's
about
my
Bobby?
He shook my hand, and I didn't really talk to him much. I was very much like, I'm here to do a job. I'm not going to bother you, whatever.
Yeah. Which is good.
But Daryl and LA were great with me. They asked me a lot of questions about, what I do, what music I'm into and stuff. And here I'm this idiot with these great, R&B producers, and I'm going, well, I'm kind of into prog rock. I should have said, hey, I love R&B, I can sing R&B, let's go do that, but I was young and I had just moved to LA. I hadn't been in LA for very long. In fact, they asked me what my rate was, and I had no idea. I'm like, can I get back to you? I went home, and the next day I called Mealy. I called my vocal coach from Berkeley, who I hadn't talked to in probably 2 years. And she says, oh, triple scale, honey. Triple scale. She goes, you're doing a major motion picture. It's going to be released at triple scale, which I think at the time scale was $375 an hour. So I made pretty good. And I still get little mailbox money checks every once in a while when it's shown on HBO and whatnot. It doesn't buy me any new tires or anything, but at the beginning, the checks were pretty good, but every 3 months, or every 4 months, but they've kind of dwindled a little bit. Hey, that was in 92 and it's, 30 years later and I'm still getting a little money for it.
Checks.
Yeah.
Hey,
I ain't, hey, I know it's not my album, but I was on the biggest selling soundtrack, movie soundtrack of all time. So something to be proud of, I guess.
Well, yeah.
You personally beat out the Bee Gees.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she did. I helped a little bit.
Well, it goes back to that.
It's nice to have one of those hanging on your wall,
It's
kind of fun, I got it in my bedroom in Vegas, and it's kind of every once in a while. It's pretty cool.
Well, it's a great experience too.
Yeah.
And it goes back to that saying, location.
Exactly.
You happen to be across the street. Hey, come on over.
Well,
somebody was in the right place at the right time. And and I made the most of the opportunity. I went in there and I sang well. I sang what they wanted, and we had a great time, and they were wonderful to me. And it's, you know, it's a great experience, a great memory, and that's what life's about, you know, having cool experiences.
Yeah.
And you know, I got to Freddie White, who you know, one of the brothers, Earth, Wind and Fire brothers. He played percussion in Earth, Wind and Fire. He's a great drummer. He was in my original band for a couple of years. You know, I had Freddie White playing, you know, on my original music. And like I said, I've worked with some great people. You know, and you know, I'm proud of what I've done. You know, we always wish we could have reached higher, you know, higher goals and so forth. But hey, you know, I always say to my buddy, I said, you know, somebody's got to be the oldest best new artist Grammy winner at some point, and right, somebody got to be the oldest to win that, you know. So who knows?
Well, an example of this, it's not music, but it's comedy. Rodney Dangerfield. He was this comedian. He didn't make any money. He goes, if I don't make it big by age 40, I'm going to give it up. Age 40, he gave it up, but he never stopped writing jokes. It wasn't until maybe 55 or 60 years old, he said, let me try it one more time. And that's when he hit it big with no respect.
That's right.
You just never give up your dream. I love the fact that you love what you're doing. You do it well. And I'm looking forward to seeing you at the Palace, the Oakdale, and the Warner.
Oh, Oakdale, that would. Oh my goodness, Oakdale, that would be a real cool. I remember seeing Liberace there. My mom took me when I first started playing piano. My mom and dad took me to see Liberace. I saw Bobby Vinton there too. Yeah, so let's do a little tour of Connecticut. Let's get these bands out there, and you know, Foxwoods and the Warner and the Grand. That'd be awesome.
Me and Rich gonna work on the Warner Theater.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Warner Theater. That I tell you, that I know that I would lose it, you know, after that show for sure, because that would just be so nice to come home and play, you know, for family and friends and you know, whoever else wanted to come out and see at the Warner, that would be great. Yeah, let's bring it home, baby.
We'll work on it. This is the plan.
Yeah.
What we can do is we can set it up where all three bands are playing. You got 4NR opening up for Bryan Adams, opening up for Boston.
What do you want to kill me? You want me to sing you know, an hour of Bryan Adams and then 90 minutes of Boston and 90 minutes of 4NR? You know, I don't know if I can do that here. I have to do it over a couple of nights. But you know, Brad Delp and Lou Graham, no easy guys to sing. But yeah, no, I'd love to come with any of them, all of them, whatever. Would love to come home and do a little, you know, little tour, do you know, make it so it can be, you know, to get us there financially. You know, we probably have to play Foxwoods or some other places too. But the Warner, like I said, that'd be one of the highlights for me ever. Right at home, you know. And like I said, I performed there before doing plays and whatnot, but to come there now, coming back home, it just, you know, it would mean a lot to me. I mean,
right at home.
You know, Torrington is always going to have a place in my heart. I mean, my dad, you know, I don't know if you guys know, but you know, the high school, the stadium, that's named after my dad. You know, my dad was, you know, the athletic director, football coach, track coach at THS. I mean, I was in that gym doing track workouts before I could, you know, speak. I was, you know, when I was little, watching my dad coach football and of course playing for Torrington High School, golf and basketball. And, you know, just, it would be wonderful if that could happen. And I know that, you know, the guys in the band want to come. We love going back to Canopy Lake Park when we do every year. My bass player, Andy Gustafson, who's in the bands, he's from Maine. So a lot of New England contacts. So I think it would be great. That would be great.
You know what was great was having you on the show. Really appreciate you coming on the show and talking about talking about music in general.
Yeah.
I love it. We got a chance to talk about you, Yeah.
I can talk about music all day long. So I appreciate.
Oh,
I know
hey.
I'm a little long-winded, but
No, not at all.
I'm
It's all right, man.
blessed
It's
to
all right.
have this opportunity. You guys, thank you so much for having me. And
Thank you.
you know, this was wonderful. Please, you know, let me know when I can let everybody know when they can see it. And you know, I'm sure my mom and my girl would want to watch. I don't know anybody else. You know, hopefully we got other people who want to watch.
Oh, we will.
You know.
We will. We will.
You'll definitely spread the word, and you'll be the first to know. I'll get you that link so everybody can watch it. Appreciate you being on the show. But before we go,
Sure.
let everybody know what's next and where can people find you.
Okay. Facebook, the Foreigner Concert Experience for the Foreigner Tribute. Facebook, Summer of '69, the Bryan Adams Tribute. Facebook, Boston, Rock and Roll Band, the Music of Boston. That's the Boston Tribute. You can find us all on Facebook. We will be Boston, the Rock and Roll Band, the Music of Boston will be performing at Casino, Arizona in Scottsdale, Arizona, April 1st and 2nd, 2 nights. If you're in that area, get your tickets quick because it always sells out.
All right.
Yeah. So, and, you know, just keep looking at the Facebook pages and for our upcoming shows. And hopefully we'll have a Warner Theater show to put up on those Facebook pages as well.
Make that happen. Thank you very much, Kyle. It was great having
Thanks,
you on.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Stay in contact, Wibo.
I will.
Love you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
You're
Great
welcome.
talking with you.
Great talking
Take
with
care.
you as well. That wraps up the latest episode of Rich and Wibo Present the Local Artist Show. A huge thanks goes out to vocalist Kyle Frost for being on the show. We would also like to thank John Bristol of Elmwood Productions for always doing a superb job editing the show. And last, but definitely not least, we'd like to thank you, the viewer, for tuning in every week. Enjoy your day, everyone.
Good night.
From the frenetic mind of author Rich Sear. 5 terrifying short stories, now available in one collection. Confessions of a Frenetic Mind. 5 tales of blood-curdling terror, available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
All of a sudden I hear, brim, brim.
What's a diaphragm again?
Ha! We caught one.
They're supposed to be weird.
Oh, yeah, no. If you say so.
I've always wanted to be in a movie.
Waiting around for autumn, waiting